Nope, you read that title and thumbnail right. Sub is not so bad in Shadowlands. You get poisons back for that old school rogue feel, and not only that, Shiv is making a return. Rupture too, with Find Weakness being finally baseline. Sub is looking very promising. But keep in mind, this is beta, and despite the good things going for it, there are some hiccups as well. What hiccups you say? Well, stay tuned. Stay tuned to our stream. Oh, you know we are streaming pretty much all of our Shadowlands testing and doing some raids and dungeons on live with viewers as well. Twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline is where the magic happens. With 5 days per week, there's at least one day you can attend, so don't miss it! And if that's not your poison, maybe instant poison is. Damn, this flame segues smooth as his 5-head. The basic poisons are back. Instant poison makes its way to the kit as the quote, lethal poison for damage purposes. The functionality is the same as for assassination. You put it on and it has a chance to proc some instant nature damage. Wound poison seems to be baseline as well, but currently is not implemented on the beta. That does mean that Sub is picking up speed in PvP since the Mortal Strike effect is a pretty crucial one and makes a world of a difference. The non-lethal ones are here also. Well, 2 of them. Crippling poison comes with the 30% chance to apply a 50% slow to your target, as you would expect. I mean, nothing surprising here. Numbing poison has a 50% chance to slow the target's attack and cast speeds by 15%. The effects are nice, but clearly not the top of the line when compared to other specs. Not until you get Shiv. It's back, baby! Shiv strikes the target for what seems now to be wet noodle damage, but does reward a combo point. The really important bit is it applies an amplified version of your non-lethal poison equipped. With crippling, you get a spectacular 70% slow on your target. That's Chains of Ice level slow, and can probably find uses in dungeons or raids with specific adds or mobs that need to be controlled individually. I mean, who knows? The new affix maybe? Numbing poison makes Shift dispel all in rage effects. This is clearly useful in raging weeks, and not only that, there are already mobs that enrage currently, and keeping them pacified makes your tank happy. You know what they say? Happy tank, happy spank. Yo, did you put your weird rhymes in the script again, man? Jesus. Crimson Vial has been nerfed to only heal you for 20% of your HP, down from 30%, all over 4 seconds. The main reason for this change, supposedly, is because Pickpocket was announced to have a brand new interaction with Crimson Vial, which is currently not implemented on beta. Pickpocketing targets is supposed to give you bonuses for Crimson Vial. Now, this change can be a hit or miss. On one hand, it could force players to pickpocket just so their ability can offer enough sustain. On the other hand, it could have potentially awesome interactions where you could make it so it gives you buffs like, I don't know, cooking based on what you pickpocket. It all depends on its implementation, which we are still waiting for, Blizzard. Rupture also makes its way back into the base kit as simply a bleed to keep up. Right now, there aren't really any real interactions with it, but the benefits of it is that it lasts longer than Nightblade, which it ended up replacing. The sub-rotation is decently crowded with all sorts of cool things to do, and maintaining a dot shouldn't be too big of a part of your rotation. Not to mention that Shadowlands has even more things for you to do as subtlety, so far at least. And with this, we get into the good stuff. On the topic of finishers, Slice and Dice is baselines once more, giving Sub another finisher to play with. Attack speed is really good for Sub because of shadow techniques, and seeing how Deepening Shadows was nerfed to only reduce the cooldown of Shadow Dance by 1 second instead of 1.5, this comes just in time. It's another buff you need to maintain, but hey, it helps with energy starvation since with a more tactical approach, you can generate combo points a lot quicker without spending any energy. Find Weakness is baseline! This made the first Talon road deader than Flame's dreams of mastering Red Paladin. Ha! But really now, Find Weakness has been an iconic rogue mechanic for over a decade. From an assassination talent back in the day, to a sub-mechanic that you needed to play with and around. Now it's baseline, and not only that, Backstab and Shuriken Storm now have an extra effect that applies 6 seconds of Find Weakness when they crit. Shuriken Storm does lose the damage bonus in stealth, but the Find Weakness more than makes up for it. And on top of it all, Eviscerate deals an extra 50% of its damage in shadow damage on targets debuffed by Find Weakness. The math behind it is a bit weird though, since the shadow damage hits separately and its value is calculated from the last Eviscerate you did, so 50% of the one's damage instead of the one that actually procs it. This is most likely an oversight, since you could want to snapshot Eviscerates to also increase the shadow damage, which as a concept deals more damage since armor doesn't affect it. Shadow Vault is the new AoE finisher. Baseline, baby. No talented bullshit. Baseline. It's essentially an AoE Eviscerate in that it deals 3% extra shadow damage to targets with Find Weakness. The main issue with it right now is damage scaling. It actually does less damage on 5 combo points and a simple Shuriken Storm. Again, clearly an oversight, but as a concept, fucking finally. One thing to note, with all the AoE caps going on, Shuriken Storm and Volt are capped at 8 targets, whereas your go-to AoE finisher, Secret Technique, is capped at 6. Maybe something to keep in mind. Shadow Dance has been reverted back to its previous iteration where it's now a 1-minute cooldown with an 8-second duration. This actually impacts your rotation and decisions a bit more. It being 8 seconds but having fewer charges means the damage window needs to be planned out more. Not only that, it can align with Symbols of Death way better than with the current shitty gear template, having Slice and Dice up and spamming finishers gets Shadow Dance off cooldown at the same time as Symbols of Death becomes available. This makes the rotation smoother and not forces you to either cast one without the other or keep one on cooldown as the other one becomes available. With more haste and energy regeneration, Shadow Dance might actually be quicker to come off cooldown. That's a question of scaling, and maybe enveloping shadows will fix that in the end. Let's get into the new shit! Echoing Reprimand is the Kyrian ability you get, and it's dog shit for sub. Hear me out, alright? The ability deals decent damage and generates 3 combo points on a 45-second cooldown. It will also mark a certain number of combo points on your character. Now, when you use finishers that consume that exact number of combo points, they will perform as you casted them within 7 combo points. This sounds amazing, and it actually is if the Anima Charge mark settles on 2 combo points, where you cast 1 or 2 generators, then boom! 7 combo points eviscerate. Each rogue spec has a way to generate extra combo points more or less outside your control. Meaning, you could essentially generate more combo points than you need to activate the effect, and Sub is the best example, and subsequently the worst spec for this Covenant ability. Shadow Technique gives your melee attacks a chance to generate a combo point. So, gunning down that X amount you need for Echoing Reprimand, whatever. Now that is going to be frustrating and unrewarding. It either takes luck or incredible skill and auto attacks management to control it. But if you could, in an ideal world, you would gain a massive damage boost from this one. The saving grace is that the buff lasts on you for quite a while and you don't have to consume it right away. If you want to go Maldraxxus, you will. you will get serrated bone spike from the Necrolords. Holy shit! This ability is nuts. It has 3 charges, 30 seconds recharge rate, and a 30-yard cast range. What? You shoot a Diablo-like Necromancer-themed bone spike at your target and debuff them with a strong bleed that lasts until they die, and its DPS is double of Rupture. It generates 1 combo point baseline, but its tooltip also says it generates a point per active bone spike. Not sure if it's additional to the base one. Either way, if the target dies or is healed to full, you get a charge back. The testing we were able to do was inconclusive since the targets died before we could gauge the full strength of this. And plus would be a better way to see how good it is. Likely to be nerfed in my humble opinion. And the fairies and pixies of Ardenwald once again come with the funnest ability. Sepsis is your Night Fae reward for your class. You put a decent dot on your target for 10 seconds that deals a massive chunk of damage once it expires. It has a 1.5 minute cooldown, and if the target dies before the dot drops and has the chance to do the big hit, you get 60 seconds off its cooldown, meaning this has a pretty high uptime. If the target doesn't die, you instantly get a few seconds of vanish, taking you out of combat. Do I need to say how impactful this is for subtlety? In PvE, it's hard to say how good it is, since the current build of the beta doesn't let us use this as a proper Covenant ability. And we could only test it while leveling through Ardenwald, but PvP, man, oh boy. And last but not least, the Ventir bring some slaughter to the table. This can only be cast from stealth and puts a 5-minute poison on your weapons and generates 2 combo points. The poison is supposed to deal damage and steals 15% the healing done to the target. I can't see this competing with the other abilities in PvE, but the Covenant Soulbinds might still make the choice worth it in the end. In PvP though, this sounds pretty cool. Also, the damage seems incredibly low right now. Either the tooltip is bugged, because there's no scaling, or the damage meter is scuffed. I don't know. The talents are a bit incomplete. With the departure of Find Weakness, the slot is now empty, with nothing new, and has been like that for months. Gloomblade, however, has received Backstab's updated effect in proc and Find Weakness. It definitely helps in single target, and it's a nice bonus outside Shadowlands if you can time it with Eviscerates. Dark Shadow has been buffed to offer 5% more damage during Shadowlands up to a total of 30%. That on top of the 15% from symbols that you presumably have every time you have Shadowlands, and can create some interesting damage windows. I mean, it's not that different from BFA, but it seems like stuff will align a lot better now. Legendaries are the prime example of how Rogue and Sub by extension is handled on beta right now. Not at all, almost. You have 4 general legendaries that you can use on any spec and 4 specific to sub in this case. The sub ones are actually not implemented and we don't even know what they will be. And the general ones are buggy or severely undertuned. Mark of the Master Assassin is the best one and maybe the only one that's actually working properly. You might remember this from Legion Mantle of the Master Assassin. While in stealth, and 5 seconds after you exit, you have a 100% crit chance. This seemed on paper the funnest one to play with as sub. First of all, you get more re-stealth, so the uptime on this is higher. And second, with the added crit effect to Backstab and Shuriken Storm to apply Find Weakness, you can really make some cool setups and plays with a bit of tactical play. I love it. Although it's not really rogue specific, Suffuse's Proclamation is also available for testing. It's the old Suffuse secret, no doubt about it, at least inspired by it. However, this time around, it reduces the crowd control effects you receive by 25%. So, the old PvP talent Relentless. And When you CC a target or interrupt or stuff like that, you get a 80 stats increase to all your secondary stats for 15 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. I imagine this will scale with the legendary item level, because at level 60, 80 haste is roughly 2% extra haste, 80 crit is 3% crit chance. You get the idea. It's incredibly underwhelming for PvE, and it's clearly meant as a PvP legendary. There are a whole bunch of general legendaries for all classes, but so far only this was available to test on Subtlety. Although no conduits are available for testing, we still have soulbinds. Now, each soulbind has a bunch of benefits in its skill tree, with supposedly the strong one being the last option. Most of these are utility and survivability focused. The Kyrians provide combat meditation on Pelagos that offers boost to your mastery, which is okay, I guess. It's damage, but maybe you want crit for those find the weaknesses. Clea will serve you better with Pointed Courage that gives you 1% crit for every enemy and ally up to 5% total. This is not the last one on the list, but Valiant Strikes is, and this one transforms crit strikes by your group into group-wide heals. Mechanicos has a similar skill aimed at increasing haste, and the ultimate skill is Brawn's Call to Action, where you summon Brawn to smack your enemies after casting 120 spells and abilities. This, with the Hammer of Genesis, can create a faster playstyle that builds up to a big point where a robot smashes shit. The Necrolords have more defensive-orientated options, maybe better for PvP. The one that caught the most attention is Ultimate Form, that makes you immune to CC while you are shielded by Fleshcraft. RuneScribe Boon empowers your entire selected Soulbind tree for M&E, and one of these is another stack and haste buff up to 5%. The rest are pretty tanky options, max health, healing, stuff like that. The Bonesmith Soulbind has a Forgeborn Reveries that lets you fight after you die for 10 seconds with 50% reduced damage dealt. You cannot be healed, so good luck. It also focuses on crit as well with Marrow Gemstone, although with an internal 1-minute cooldown. The Night Fae come with Grove Invigoration for Nia, a mastery buff when you use Sepsis, and also some poisons and dots options in her tree when you CC or interrupt targets. Pretty nifty, most likely PvP oriented more so than PvE. Pot Tender is a cheat death-like mechanic that actually heals you for 30% of your HP over 10 seconds, but kills you if during those 10 seconds you take 10k damage. 10k is essentially a little less than half as you ding 60, so not too bad. Corain comes with Final Moments. You deal 3% more damage to targets below 35% HP and heal for 3% more on targets below 35% HP. This bonus is increased by 500% for 30 seconds when an ally dies. I mean, it depends if you are raiding with Flame, in which case this can have 100% uptime. Otherwise, oh. Lastly, the Bee's Knees. Thrill Seeker comes from Ventir and is a combat buff that will reach 40 stacks the more you kill shit and stay in combat. 40 stacks, you get a supposed 20% attack speed. Well, we think it's attack speed since the tooltip reads that you are sped up by 20% for everything you do. I mean, that could mean cooldown reduction, haste, move speed, and really any of these can be incredibly overpowered for something that has a decently high uptime. Teotar has Wasteland property. When you press Slaughter, you activate Tea Time! You get 10% versatility and 4% are given to your allies for 10 seconds. This was previously General Draven's effect, who now has Service in Stone, not yet implemented. You take 10% less damage below 40% HP, and when you die, you leave a statue behind that explodes in 3 seconds, dealing 100% of your max HP in damage to enemies, and buffs an ally with a massive resource refund. Mana, energy, resources. Conduits are not yet in, so keep an eye peeled in the Ravenhold Discord community for updates, and there will be updates for Rogue and Sub especially. Well, there is little to say at the moment since the version of Sub now is pretty much the one we had day one of Alpha. It's obvious they didn't get to balance and fix the issues on Rogue, which raises some questions, but it's unavoidable at this point, so yeah. Wouldn't be surprised for changes to happen the day after we publish this video. It all happens like that. As for what changed, baseline and all, fuck yeah. Man, this is so good. Poisons bring back utility you otherwise had to talent or spec into. The new AoE finisher, once it's balanced, can give you an easier time when choosing talents and not box you in either AoE or single target focus. It's no secret Sub has been suffering since the infamous Zul nerf of 8.0, and the devs know this. I have high hopes for the spec, and as my favorite Rogue spec, I'm waiting for these changes like a kid on Christmas morning. Hey! Props to Mystler for his Rogue article on Wowhead, which you will find linked below. Definitely a good read if you want to know how these changes impact the spec on a deeper level. And you can find the man in the Ravenhold Discord, where you will likely find the future updates coming for Sub Rogue in general. Mystler also helped us in the past with a lot of our Rogue guides, so our hats are tipped to him. And we also tip our hat to our Patreons. Guys, thank you so much for your monthly support. It's been an amazing ride. All of the stuff that's happening right now, you know, the class overviews from Shadowlands, the on cooldown weekly WoW news show, and also the super secret project has been revealed. Our podcast, which is called MoCast, you're also supporting that. And that is all about having, you know, WoW community figures get into a chat about what's happening, you know, behind the camera, behind the streams, the content creation. You know, it's about WoW, but more so about the person, you know, about the journey. So hopefully you can enjoy that. You can find it on Spotify as well as on our YouTube channel. And with that, thank you so much for watching the video. See you very soon on the next one. Bye-bye.